And I'm going to give you a take for 99 cents here. And my take is that boxing is in a very bad place right now. And I had to come to the realization of that. You know, when you're a fan of a sport, you don't like people coming at your sport and saying your sport is garbage. Your sport will never survive with other sports. It will never compare to UFC. It will never compare to the NFL. You don't like to hear that because you were a fan of the sport. You watch the sport when nobody else is watching it. When the casuals don't know who they watching. Okay, you know what you're watching. But the reality is, as much as I want to defend boxing and the young talents that there is in a bunch of weight classes, the lightweight division, the welterweight division, the middleweight division, the heavyweight division, boxing left me with a bad taste and it's in a very bad place because Terence Crawford and Errol Spence, I'm sorry to say, may never happen. And you know what? We always knew what was going to be the biggest stumbling block, which was negotiations. The fight was going to be up to the promoters to make, but that never changed, and it was never going to change. It was going to be who would take less of the pie and who will be willing to take less of the pie. Not Crawford, but from the promoters. And right now, they're not budging. Now, a lot of people will look at Crawford and say, oh, why are you fighting a bum? Why not wait it out? You want to wait out your career? We haven't fought since last October, November. It's coming up on a year now. Well, we're going to wait a couple more months till these guys get old and rusty and we see another Mayweather and Pacquiao. We already know how that was. We wanted that fight 5 years before it happened. The world was set to be ending according to the minds along in that middle. We moved past that. We got one of the worst fights ever. Matter of fact, we got a prom dance. So anybody that never made it to their prom in high school, guess what? You got to see one for yourself on live television with that Mayweather and Pacquiao fight. And nobody was ever satisfied with what we got from a product perspective, still to this day. That's why Mayweather can go on and say, well, you know what? I beat Pacquiao. Who cares? Who cares? Does that fight even matter? Was Pacquiao even healthy in that fight? You don't win. You don't win. That's not a win for your legacy. So with that being said, whether or not we wait it out and this fight happens 4 more years from now, it's never going to be the same, especially because it should have happened now. Errol Spence defeated Eugenio Ugas, was at the top echelon, looked better than he looked before his car flipped over a few times and he almost lost his life. This is the best Spence I saw in that fight. Against Sean Porter, nobody stopped Sean Porter. Crawford did. This was the perfect time. Guys called each other out. Let's get it on. Made everybody hopeful and hype that this fight was going to happen next. And yet, this is what we get. Terence Crawford moving on. Spence coming out and saying, I don't like being at this weight. And I'm not going to be at this weight any longer. I might move up. Ladies and gentlemen, do we realize what's about to happen here? We may never get Terence Crawford and Errol Spence. And if we do, we are more likely going to get the bootleg version, similar to that of Mayweather and Pacquiao. Don't blame me. Don't blame Spence. Don't blame Bud. Blame boxing. Because boxing is a business. And until you know that, and until you realize that, and do your research from the history of this sport, and all the mobsters that took over this sport, and currently still taking over the sport, you will realize that boxing is a business. And boxing is in a very bad place. Ladies and gents, that's my take for 99 cents.